More than 4 billion people live across this vast continent called Asia, and we are telling their stories. A powerful earthquake and tsunami that's expected to cut off water and electricity and collapse thousands of buildings. And getting an education. Not by going to school, but by staying home. I'm Stephanie Freid, and this is Assignment Asia. Welcome to the program. When you think of earthquakes and tsunamis, Israel probably doesn't spring to mind. That's because the last major quake to hit was 100 years ago, back in 1927. But experts say a century is the exact predicted time frame for the next major quake, meaning any time from now until 2027. If so, is Israel and the region prepared for a major onslaught? To find out, I talked with scientists, seismologists, government officials, and even school kids. The conclusion? There's still major cause for concern around effectively dealing with an inevitable catastrophe. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami killed an estimated 225,000 people in 14 different countries. The highest victim toll was in the Indonesian city of Banda Aceh, followed by Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand. In 2011, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, causing more than 15,000 deaths and meltdowns of 3 reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power complex. The recent earthquake and tsunami that hit Indonesia's Sulawesi island claimed thousands of lives. Soon, the same natural disasters may hit parts of the Middle East.
Thousands of people will be on the streets, tons of debris on the streets. We won't have electricity and gas and water. Jerusalem will suffer the most. Buildings there will collapse. It's a bad thing. I mean, it's a bad event, and we need to be prepared for that.
That's one of 2 likely earthquake and tsunami scenarios for Israel, depending on where the quake hits. The Hellenic Arc off the coast of Greece is one possible origin. Located in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, the Hellenic Arc is a zone where one tectonic plate is submerged beneath another. The second possibility:
we have the Dead Sea transform a fault that goes from south to north, along the eastern part of Israel, along the Jordan Valley. It produced strong earthquakes, like magnitude 6 and above, even 7 and 7.5.
Both scenarios pose a threat to the country's major cities and its entire coastline.
Haifa, which is a major port city in Israel, is sitting on top of this fault. And the petrochemical industry is sitting along this fault. So the potential damage is very, very high.
A quake or tsunami is not a matter of if, but when.
We know there's gonna be one. We cannot say or determine exactly when and where it will be.
However, scientists do know that any major activity can impact the entire region.
This one is an event that occurred 33 minutes ago.
In Egypt?
It shows in Egypt, yeah.
Iraq has an eastern part, the issue between them and Iran. There is a whole range of mountains which is active. Syria will be affected, yeah. Syria, at least the western side of Syria would be affected. Lebanon will be affected. But the longest part which we have common is the Jordan. The main country we have to communicate about earthquake with is Jordan.
Communication with the neighbors can be patchy, however, depending on the prevailing conflict. In July, northern Israel was hit by a sudden jolt.
We had in the Sea of Galilee we had something like 250 earthquakes. That's what we call a swarm. It's the biggest that we had so far in Israel or in the area.
Swarms are multiple earthquake sequences that hit an area within a relatively brief time period. Residents felt 15 of the quakes, the ones that registered at or close to 4.5 on the Richter scale.
It's like a flag, red flag or red light that shows it's working. I mean, we are on our way to a strong earthquake.
So what is Israel's government doing to heed the red flags? A variety of things. Seismic retrofitting, public awareness campaigns, and teaching young people to be first responders. But are those measures adequate?
Right now we have 69 stations in. 60 of them are transmitting data in real time. Takes it between half a second and 2 seconds to reach from the station to the data center. We play with seconds. It's a small country, Israel. We have in the widest place, it's like 80 kilometers wide. We don't have much time. We're talking about maximum of 20 seconds alert to Tel Aviv.
In preparation, Israel is adding another 51 seismic stations. Modeled after California's early warning algorithm systems, underground sensors detect seismic movement and feed that information to a data center. Within seconds, alerts are transmitted to the government and security personnel, the public, and utilities and transport companies.
This alone is not enough. Being an earthquake algorithm when nobody knows about how to behave once you get the warning has no meaning.
Which is why a nationwide drill was held last year and public awareness campaigns are ongoing. Tsunami warning and evacuation signs have been posted near beaches and along the coast.
If it is winter time, very few people are going to the sea. But if it is summertime when all the children are going there, then it could be a severe disaster.
1980s legislation resulted in thousands of buildings getting retrofits to ensure they'll withstand seismic movement, but thousands more remain vulnerable and unprotected. Only 3% of public housing structures built before 1980 have been reinforced.
Something like 80,000 buildings that were built before 1980, so a large scale of population that is in risk.
Experts warn half of all pre-80s buildings in Israel are 3 stories high or higher. Many will collapse in an earthquake. Other strategies for ensuring quake readiness, Israel's plan to educate young people.
And we took it's about 70,000 kids from high school, and we taught them how to rescue from debris in case of an earthquake. You know, the 10th graders are perfect for that. They're old enough, they have the time, you know, it's possible to take them out and to train them. And you know, when you get this training, you have it for the rest of your lives.
Week-long training sessions are ongoing. Tens of thousands of 10th graders have been through the course.
If a building collapsed on a person, they taught us how to get him out and to perform CPR and check his vital signs.
You had to work with metal cutters to break metal.
I remember wearing helmets and protective gear, gloves, and also.
They remember some of what they learned, but aren't confident they'll recall it in real time.
A lot of pressure, but at the same time, there's also a lot of responsibility. It feels like they expect a lot.
It was pretty overwhelming, like when they came and taught us all those things that I don't really remember. But what, I need to rescue people now? Like, I'm just 15, it's crazy.
Earlier this year, the government released an earthquake preparedness report addressing significant lapses in disaster recovery planning for schools, hospitals, and water and natural gas distribution centers. The most recent earthquake and tsunami public service announcement was released 5 years ago. Critics warn the government may be placing too much emphasis on military threats while underestimating civilian dangers. That may explain why most Israelis know what to do if there's an incoming rocket, but not if there's an earthquake or tsunami.
Frankly, I have no idea.
What can I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't arrive in my life.
I cannot tell you what to do. What would you do?
Time is not on Israel's side, but experts don't expect a disaster on the scale of Indonesia's or Japan's.
The clock is ticking because we are sure, I'm sure, that next earthquake and tsunami will come. So every day that goes gets us closer to the big earthquake. And we are losing, in a way, we are losing time.
Despite technological advances, it's a ticking time bomb, and only Mother Nature knows the length of its fuse. Experts say a major landslide or earthquake that hits close to shore could trigger a first series of waves that hits before there's time to issue a warning. The most at-risk areas are up to a mile offshore and less than 25 feet above sea level. The most common tsunami-related cause of death is drowning, but there are other hazards, like contaminated water, flooding, and fires caused by ruptured gas lines and gas tanks. Next on Assignment Asia, schooling begins at home.
Stories of hope, triumph, innovation, and change. We uncover the truth and go great lengths to tell a story. Get to know ordinary people with extraordinary stories and see Asia from an Asian perspective. This is Assignment Asia. Expect the unexpected.
Culture Express. See the world in color.
For some children in Singapore, school isn't about sitting in a classroom with dozens of peers. Instead, it's about staying at home, where parents, who double as teachers, impart lessons, knowledge, and values. As Miro Lu found out, since it was first legalized in Singapore less than 2 decades ago, more and more families are turning to homeschooling.
Homeschooling is basically...
It is what it says on the tin.
Having a learning environment in your home.
And it's studying at home in a structured way to achieve certain educational outcomes.
For me, my idea of homeschooling is not so much the academic.
You get to have your own freedom of doing what you like.
It's a process of bringing up a person to adulthood.
It's Monday morning at the Ong household, and the family is getting ready for school. But they don't have to put on uniforms or sit in a classroom. That's because 5 of all 6 children are homeschooled. Only the eldest Asha is now studying in a polytechnic. Asha was also homeschooled until he was 17, a move which his younger siblings are likely to follow suit. Sue is more hands-on with her younger children, while allowing the older ones to study independently on their own. Isaac's lessons include Hebrew history, algebra, and his favorite, health and biology. 1 year ago, he switched from textbooks to a video-based syllabus.
Before I started this current syllabus, all the stuff I learned was out of a book. I am slightly dyslexic, which makes it kind of hard for me to just take in all that reading. But when I went to video, then I would be able to listen, and I would just be able to be more engaged into the school.
In Singapore, Many homeschooling families are staunch Christians.
The idea of why we homeschool is so that we can have the Bible as a major part of our children's education. So we saw that in the public schools, we're not really able to do that.
Mission schools in Singapore are still regarded as public schools with a secular syllabus. For most of the day, God is not brought into the classroom. That's why some Christian families prefer homeschooling. Dan and Sue also want autonomy over how to raise their children and who they mingle with. Sue wants to impart life skills such as conflict resolution and forming healthy and enriching relationships.
There's one special quote that Mommy says, is that our siblings are our greatest allies in life. My closest friends are Isaiah, Tse, and Koko.
Like other families with homeschooled children, Sue is a stay-at-home mom, while Dan works as a private school teacher.
Singapore has one of the best education systems in Asia, but a handful of parents prefer to homeschool their kids instead. 50 out of 40,000 children are educated outside of the mainstream education system each year.
Parents who want to homeschool their children must first seek permission from the Ministry of Education, or MOE. MOE told CGTN in a statement that all Singaporean children are highly encouraged to attend mainstream schools to acquire formal education and to share common experiences with their peers. Under the Compulsory Education Act, all children must attend school up to primary 6 or complete the homeschooling equivalent. Homeschoolers must take the National Primary School Leaving Examination between 11 and 15 and score a minimum grade. Grades are critical to many Singaporean parents, but for homeschooling families, other priorities also matter just as much. Sue gives her children the freedom to explore their passions and allows them to manage their own time.
When they've completed their academic, goals for the day, the rest of the day they are free to go and pursue whatever. For the high schoolers, they would be done maybe by 3 or 4. So the rest of the time they'll do other things.
If I want to go play piano now, I'll just go play piano and then come back to school and do my own lessons.
Music is a big part of their lives, and the children practice almost every day. They also play in an ensemble with another homeschooling family.
When you practice by yourself, it's kind of boring. When you play in a group, then the sound is very nice. You have to hear it all together.
The homeschooling community in Singapore is small but active. Parents share tips on their children's learning and take turns to organize events.
Within the homeschoolers also, it's quite fun. There are fairs, where we give the children opportunity to make stuff. We set up a booth and then they also learn how to display their items and market their products. It's quite fun.
With all this exposure, Sue isn't worried that her children will lack social skills.
They're socializing amongst each other, and we have seen that they have no trouble socializing with people outside of the family as well.
Experts say homeschooling has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantages include the freedom to decide on the curriculum, freedom of schedule and method of instruction, as well as the chance to spend quality time with the children. But on the other hand, homeschooling can be a challenging and extended process. Apart from socialization issues and lack of same-age peers, some homeschool children also face difficulties in re-entering the public school system. However, this wasn't a problem faced by 37-year-old senior manager Ivan Ke. As a teenager, Ivan was homeschooled for 3 years. Being an only child, his classroom was a very different environment.
I definitely miss having friends and people around me in general. I also miss girls. You don't get a lot of that when you're alone, and I think when you're formative, you tend to be shy, right? you won't really reach out to other people. That's why, I spend a lot more time reading and at libraries, right? Because you're alone, you don't have friends. Books are your friends, basically.
Ivan went to a mainstream primary school, but left secondary school at 13. Like the Ong family, he wanted a religious education. Ivan also did a lot of research into subjects he enjoyed.
So if you're very interested in history, world history, or you're very interested in scientific history, you would be reading up on it so much that you would get a fairly deep knowledge of the subject matter.
When he returned to secondary school at 16, Ivan had to adapt to classmates from diverse backgrounds.
So someone who's homeschooled completely, you wouldn't have these cultural sensitivities. Why you shouldn't put a bottle of water in front of your Muslim friend, for Ramadan. That's very important especially when you go into the workforce.
Looking back, Ivan wouldn't change his homeschooling years, but when his daughter grows up, he would choose a different path for her.
I would send her to a public education system during the day, but if she's interested in a particular subject, I will definitely focus on personal classes. I always make time for my daughter to teach her things, so just generally to spend time with them, right? And I think that's also a form of knowledge transference, yeah.
Regardless of their education and religious backgrounds, all parents want their children to grow up with the right values.
You hope that your kid will be honest, being herself and being true to herself.
To watch our children grow is a great joy. When I've achieved those goals of them, having a successful family life, being able to, perform in the roles that God has placed them in, I would be happy.
After all, there's more to a meaningful and enriching life than formal schooling, regular classes, and routine examinations. For Assignment Asia, I'm Miro Lu in Singapore.
Despite limitations, homeschooling provides an appealing option for parents who want more hands-on when it comes to their kids' educations. It also gives parents who are dissatisfied with perceived negative aspects of public schooling more control over the process. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Stephanie Freid in Tel Aviv. Thanks for watching, and join us again on Assignment Asia. Share your thoughts and contribute ideas for future stories by contacting us on social media.